If you say it enough, maybe it will be true. For more on this, I'm joined by Phillip Rucker, Deputy National Editor for The Washington Post. Phil is also an MSNBC political analyst and author of multiple books about the former president, including I Alone Can Fix It, Donald Trump's catastrophic final year, and A Very Stable Genius, Donald Trump's Testing of America. I have to share with you, one of the biggest write-ups that I saw was from the New York Post, when they talked about how he quoted himself as being a very stable genius. And it was interesting to see the Murdoch family actually decide that they didn't want to go down that route. But let's get back to the DOJ's decision to appoint a special counsel and why it was motivated in part to lessen the public perception that the investigation was politically motivated. Now, that clearly hasn't happened, as Trump is already using the special counsel to try to curry favor in his bid for the 2024 presidential bid. You shared this Washington Post article titled "Trump Seizes on Special Counsel as Rallying Cry for 2024. Do you think that the DOJ made the right decision? Did they have a choice but to go to this route?
Well, the Attorney General concluded that this was the best decision for the Department of Justice, in part to really convince the American public that this investigation is proceeding with integrity and that politics are not interfering in it. Merrick Garland explained that the decision was not just because Donald Trump has announced he's going to be a candidate in 2024, but also because President Biden has indicated that he's leaning towards making a decision to run for re-election in 2024. And so by appointing this special prosecutor, the Attorney General creates even more independence around both the Mar-a-Lago classified documents investigation and the elements of January 6th and fake electors that involve Trump. It's really to preserve that independence in the eyes of the public.
And Trump responded to the AG's appointment of the special counsel by calling it the worst politicization of justice in our country and calling on people to stand up and fight for the nation. What do you make of this reaction? I mean, I don't think it's very surprising, right, that this is actually the route that he would wish, because he's trying once again to gaslight the American people. But what do you call about this idea of fight? Because we knew that it was those code words that seemed to get the Proud Boys to stand to attention on January 6th. Should be concerned with those words.
Certainly, and I'm not at all surprised, as you said, that Trump would handle it this way and describe this as a fight. But it's not a fight. I mean, the Justice Department is seeking facts and information, and they're trying to determine whether potential crimes may have been committed by the former president in keeping all of those classified documents that detail some of the nation's top secrets at Mar-a-Lago, at his private home and members-only club, instead of returning those to the government. This is an important investigation. It's in the public's interest to get some of these answers and to figure out whether these crimes were committed. And, it is dangerous for the former president or any political candidate to use words like fight or sort of inspire potentially some sort of violence among supporters when you have a fairly normal law enforcement proceeding taking place.
So I want to follow up on that, because this isn't the first time that the special counsel has been appointed to the Trump investigation. What is going to be different from the Mueller investigation, basically saying that he couldn't indict a sitting president, to what we're seeing now with Merrick Garland appointing Jack Smith?
Well, for starters, Donald Trump is not the sitting president anymore. He's a private citizen. He was a president. But, when you look at the Mar-a-Lago classified documents case, those are potential crimes that would have been committed when Trump left office, when he's no longer president. So that's one difference. The other difference is that Jack Smith, as it relates to these classified documents, is very directly investigating Donald Trump's conduct, his actions, his intent, his motives, what he was doing with those classified documents and what he was instructing people around him, his aides, staff, etc., to do with those documents. In the Mueller investigation, that was a much broader investigation. Yes, it had to do with Donald Trump's actions and conduct, but it also had to do with Russia's interference in the 2016 election, what the Russians were doing at the direction of President Vladimir Putin, and a whole web of characters here in the United States and in Moscow and around the world who were connected to that election interference. It was a sprawling investigation of which Trump was just one part.
So, Donald Trump, you heard it here straight from Phillip Rucker. You are now a private citizen and can be investigated. Thank you so much for joining me now.